everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are on episode 2 of Witch Hat Atelier. Episode 1 was amazing, absolutely wonderful, stupendous, great, fantastic, never before seen, unique. Can I be Lady Gaga anymore? I absolutely loved episode 1, and I was waiting to get some comments from Patreon for episode 1 to talk about before we dived in to episode 2. So shout out to the mod Plore for getting them to me before we start. So thank you. I do have a couple comments for episode 1 that I want to touch and base on those who have commented about the series and shed a couple insights before we get started. If you have not subscribed to this channel to see Witch Hat Atelier on Sundays, what are you doing? Do that down below right now. And you can also like the video and comment what you think about the episode and the reaction. I would appreciate it. So I do want to talk about Moomin talking about the masked witch. I'm not saying a word. Great questions about the books and wands being given out freely. Seeing the consequences of giving them to a small child, it's like giving out guns with live ammo. The end result was horrible. Now Coco has harmed her mother. And I want to talk about that. The other witch, the masked witch, I watched the English dub of the episode 1, and it is in fact a man. The English dub does not bring around the edges. It's a man. I have my tingling, my Janu Yowie senses are tingling. So we're just gonna let that be for now. Who knows? The person I will become when they meet. The person I will become, because you know it's eventual. You know it's eventual. Qifrey is looking for the masked witch. You know it's eventual, but we're not there yet, so we're just not going to worry about it. I did like the English dub quite a bit now that we're on that topic. Thank you, Moomin, for the comment. I did like the English dub a lot. I'm definitely glad I'm watching the Japanese sub. I like the sub. The only thing that irks me about the English dub is Qifrey has a British accent, which is very nice. It's a good British accent. No one else does. So I'm kind of like, why give one character a British accent but nobody else? Is he from... I guess my thing is, in the Japanese sub, does Qifrey have a different dialect than the other characters? Because I'm not as familiar. I know Kansai Ben a little bit, but I don't know some of the other dialects. Otherwise, it just seems like if all of them were British in the English dub, that would kind of make sense. But only having one character be British and everyone else not, but then there's no clarification of if he's from a different area than the others. You don't get that in the Japanese sub. It's a nitpick, but it's fine. The voice cast is great. Love the voice cast. They all do a fantastic job. If it's giving me an excuse to rewatch the episodes before the next one, then I'm all about it. So, fun times. Salieri brought up a great point. I'm going to have to be careful with my references. They said, the funny thing is, comparing Qifrey to Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen is a topic that exists in the fandom, and a lot of people do not like it, mostly because Qifrey existed before Gojo. Atelier is older than Jujutsu Kaisen. I don't really care myself, but I get why a lot of people are tired of it, especially because it got to a point in Witch Hat where readers felt it downgraded Qifrey's originality and importance, especially considering that most of the people who compared Qifrey to Gojo did not watch Witch Hat at all or yet. I need to say that even though I do not care that much, it was a little bit annoying at some point. And yeah, I do apologize for that. I mean, honestly, if we're gonna... I could bring up Kakashi from Naruto. I could bring up every white-haired protagonist from every 80s and 90s anime. So it's not really that Qifrey is borrowing from Gojo, even though we know that's not the case because it came beforehand. It was just a reference. It was just an off comment. I didn't mean anything bad about it, you know? But I could see why it would get annoying, you know? Especially for people that haven't read the series or watched it. There was someone on Twitter who noticed after watching the pilot that in the anime, music only happens, I love this so much, music only happens when magic happens. And I think that is a wonderful idea from the studio, or maybe the author who is working with the studio on the anime and oversees everything. I wonder if they're going to keep it up in the next episodes as well. So Yeri, that's such a great comment, and going back and rewatching episode 1 in the English dub, yeah, the music comes in when magic's involved. I was like, oh, that's so cool. That's such a great, like, just a little detail with the anime that just makes it leap off the page even more. So I'm really glad about that. HBanana7 says for episode 1, epic world building, epic attention to detail, just epic. I honestly thought the studio was going to drop the ball on this manga. I seriously thought it was impossible to bring that to have color, sound, and movement. In my eye, essentially magic is knowledge. Like how the medieval monks and royalty had access to books and writing, but in this world, only the witches have access. Yeah, we talked about that back in episode 1. but I do love the idea of magic being tied to knowledge and resources, and the people that have such things get the power. We're probably going to talk about that a lot in this series. And yeah, look, back when they first announced the anime for Witch Hat, I had a lot of people on the channel that were trying to convince me in the comments to just bypass the anime and only read the manga for Witch Hat, because they're like, the anime will not do it justice. It will be terrible. And I was like, wow, you've not seen anything. So that's a little judgmental right off the bat. But I get the pressure, especially when it's something that's so detailed and beautiful as a manga, as I've heard. So I am glad I waited, because the first episode was absolutely gorgeous, and I'm excited to see. I love reading, I love manga, but seeing it have like sound and voices, and it just makes it have another dimension. So, but yeah, I definitely, whenever this season is over, would love to look back on the manga that I missed watching this. So anyway, thank you all so much for your kind words and your comments. I really appreciate it. I decided I just felt very magical today. So I was like, I just want to wear something cool and nice and breezy and get into this episode. So with that being said, we are going to start episode 2 of Witch Hat Atelier. And we are going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And let's go. Oh, friends, I'm excited. Hi, I don't know if they were here last week, but this is Whiteboard Coon. If you are new to my channel and don't know what Whiteboard Coon is, Whiteboard Coon has been with me for nearly 5 years on my channel and helps me explain things in teacher mode when I feel like we need to teach things in teacher mode. And today is one of those days. Okay, instantly, I have so many questions. I have so many things I want to talk about. Qifrey is getting up my alley. I'm like, well, a teacher, Ao Sensei, a teacher that has some shadiness to him as well. I am intrigued. We're not going to talk about the OP. I feel like the only thing I saw in the OP was I saw the masked witch and then I saw the 4 kids, and I was like, oh, okay, we're going to not look at this OP. We're going to wait a while, maybe the end of the season, to check that one out. So good to know. But we need to talk about this episode because there was a lot that happened. Usually the episode that follows a pilot, it's hard to come up to the level of a pilot episode because of all the conflict and all of the drama that was going on. But this one, usually, the episode 2 of a series is like super low key. This one is pretty interesting. I will make note that the one thing I did see in the OP that was kind of cool is this little googly eye thing. I'm looking at you. I'm super cute. I think I'm really excited about him. We're probably going to see him next episode or later on in the season. Is he a little familiar that Coco has with her? I don't know, but we're going to see. So in any case, my dog's probably going to have me throw a toy to him throughout this, so bear with me. But I want to get started and talk about this episode because we have things to note about witches, about Qifrey, about what's going on here. We're going to explore that here in 3, 2, 1. But essentially, starting out with the book on display, the magic book. How interesting indeed. I like that book is different than the one that she got from the Masked Witch, but it seems like all of the history of magic sorted in this book, because the branches kind of represent like the lineage, the timeline, different generations of witches, things like that. So we're going to put up here magic and witches, and we're going to explore that. Now, I want to very briefly, I'm going to bring up another episode. I'm going to bring up episode 1 here in a little bit when we talk about the spells and the castings for it, because I want to go back and look at that forbidden spell and check some things out. But I love the idea of the storybook kind of being a transitional tool to show us as we get on our way. We also find out that the Pegasus carriages are not just for, they are for the wealthy. You got to be able to pay to use them, but they are accessible to anyone as long as you've got the money and the means to use it. So whereas I thought the Pegasus carriage was just something gifted to those women from a witch, no, they're basically like farriers or taxis in this world, which is a clever world building strategy, because now the mangaka has made it to where Qifrey can, get very quickly back and forth from the Great Hall or from wherever he's going to back to his home. It's a nice little because again, teleportation without a door or window is forbidden. So we're also going to bring up forbidden spells. Forbidden spells. I'm super excited to dive into that, especially with what some of the stuff was said this episode. So forbidden spells, magic, and witches. Those are going to be our 2 points of reference in this. Yeah, I really like Qifrey a lot. He's a very entertaining character. He has enough mysteriousness around him that you find yourself wanting to learn more about him, like what inspired him to be not only the circumstances of how he became a witch, but why does he want to teach others? I have an idea that he's writing this very interesting line, and we're going to put Qifrey down here, because on the one hand, I do think that it's either one of 2 scenarios. I do think he takes pity. On Coco, because Coco loves magic so much, and he kind of developed that bond with her at the very beginning of the episode before all the stuff went down with her mom. So I do think he had developed a little tiny bond with her. But on the other hand, I think he takes pity on her, but also he is very much using her. He's very much using her to find we'll put him as MW, the Masked Witch. Now, I think this is setting up something very big to happen later on in the story. And what I think is going to happen, because I've watched She's All That, I know this formula, is that Qifrey's going to start out by saying, he takes Coco in, but he's using her to find the male witch. I think that when the Masked Witch is found out, the Masked Witch is going to point this out, being like, well, Qifrey was just using you to find me. He doesn't care about you and your mom. And I think it's going to come out and Coco's going to be very upset, but the reality is going to be that, yes, Qifrey started out using her to find the Masked Witch, but over time, as he's gotten to know her, he's developed a bond with her, and he ends up really caring about her, and the circumstances have changed. Or it won't be that way. But I just have that impression that based on what we've seen of him so far, it's going to lead to the Masked Witch. The Masked Witch gives me very, vigilante justice vibes. And so I feel like he's going to point out, being like, oh, Coco, sweetheart, this man's using you and doesn't care about your mom and is going to erase your memories as soon as, he finds me, which is, whenever that happens in the story. Because I fully anticipate that his goal was to use Coco to find the Masked Witch and to find the books and the forbidden magic. But then, which we're going to talk about, but then his goal originally was to wipe her memories out to where her and her mom would forget about him. But is that going to change over the course of the story? We'll see where it goes. But it just feels like it's being set up that way. So he's like, oh, you must be cold in your pajamas just flying high. So, here's where my home. Can you see it? Also, his home is freaking awesome. This little atelier, this little shop. It's got all these little residents and everything. It's got a chimney. It's got it looks very self-sustaining. There's different little rooms and a kitchen, but there's things where they can make things. And it looks like a school/home that is very self-sufficient. It looks like they could ride out any disaster in that location. So we're going to see. But yeah, we're going to skip the OP for now. And this episode is called The School of the Grassland. So we can assume that we're in the grasslands. I kind of like the elements that they've talked about in this episode. So they've talked about wind and water and fire, and those are the 3 main ones. But I get earth is probably included in there. I like the idea that maybe there's a witch that has a school in each of the regions. That might be interesting, because the one student, I don't know if it's Tetia, talks about coming from, maybe it was Agot, talks about coming from a different atelier. So transferring ateliers. So lots of questions after this episode, but I love whenever Qifrey takes the ribbon on the end of the hat and just flicks it. It's very dapper, but he is whoring around in this episode with that bare skin tight turtleneck that he's wearing the whole time. I was like, sir. And so they talk about the barrier that he sets up. He put barrier seeds. They're going to cover up the house so that people don't notice it. The one question I had about that is that the barrier would cover the house and the mom from being noticed by anybody. But does that mean, A, they've wiped the memories of everyone else in the town so that they will forget about the mom and Coco? Will that be discovered if it's the case? And how will she feel about that? She doesn't ask any questions because she's kind of overwhelmed in the moment, like he says. But if I were thinking about it, I'd be like, well, what about my friends? What are they going to think when they go to my house and there's nothing there? So either he's wiped all their memories, and if she ever goes back, they won't remember her, which might have some implications of how she feels about him using magic to do that. Or it could be that he didn't think that far ahead, and they're just like, where did they go? So I don't know which is the answer. I'm leaning towards the former, and he just didn't tell her about that aspect of it because it would probably horrify her. But I get the impression the masked witch is kind of a vigilante and possibly is a nemesis to Qifrey, because Qifrey has this vibe of him that he is very by the book. He is very by the book. The only reason he has not erased Coco's memories is because he knows she can help him find the masked witch, and he seems bound and determined to have that happen. So he's very by the book and follows the rules. And just from what we've seen of the masked witch, he seems the exact opposite. Like, he's like, here, kid, have a loaded gun. And it's like, what? So I just get the feeling they're nemesis. Seems like it might be that way, but also, enemies to lovers exist. So we'll see. I have so many thoughts, but we'll just see. We'll see where that takes us. We haven't met the masked witch again yet, so we need to hold off on that. But I feel bad for Coco because you just had all of this happen, and she's like, I promised my mom I wouldn't leave my mom by herself, and now look what's happened. And Qifrey, I do feel like Qifrey rides this line whenever he talks with her. He rides this line of relating to her and empathizing, and also being kind of out of touch because he's been a witch for so long that it's one of those things where he's like, oh, well, you can just use magic and this is how the rules work. Da, da, da. But it feels like he's a little out of touch from that connection like she has with her mom. Now, he has this school with all these other students in it, so he obviously cares about them because he's taking care of them and being with them and eating dinner with them and everything. But Qifrey's character has just this little edge of mystery to him that makes me so excited. And the idea of him like just giving her a hug and everything, like just those little tiny moments, I really love that about him as he takes her in. You didn't know what you were doing. I love as the dawn's breaking, you get you get to see everything in the house and all the different little areas and nooks and crannies and how it's set up. And then he's like, here, let out all your tears and then look ahead. Spoken like a man that's repressing trauma. Starting today, you're going to learn to be a witch. So then he just leaves her with the vapor bubble. He's like, it's water, you'll figure it out. I do appreciate that he is very much striving for self-sufficiency. So he leaves her with the water and he's like, you'll figure out how to use it. You've got to be self-sufficient and figure things out on your own if you're going to survive in this world. Because he's like, I'm not going to always be there to assist you. And if you want to be a witch, you're going to have to meet the standards. She's like, how am I going to use this? And I thought that her bringing this up, saying, I'm scared of touching magic, I don't understand. That transition from the night before to now, where the night before she was just like, oh, magic's awesome, I'm going to draw whatever I want, I don't care, to now where she's like, if I do something wrong, it could kill someone, is such a dramatic turn. And this moment of her kind of realizing what she's done, recognizing it, being self-aware, and not wanting to repeat it makes me love Coco's character even more, because I'm like, yes, she's learning, and it's natural for her to be scared of something that's so powerful. But I feel for this girl so much. And that's when, what's her face? Starts with an R. We'll get her name again. She's like, it's not that kind of magic. It's not that hard, difficult to manage. I'm wondering if the mangaka, this is kind of a side tangent, I wonder if the mangaka of this series has read Puella Magi Monica Magica. And I only say that because the girls, first of all, they're all girls. Now, do I think Qifrey and Kyubey are the same? God, no. I'd hope not. But do I think that there is something with like the monochromatic, and Sailor Moon did the same thing too. So Magi Monica is not the first one to do it. Although, Agot gives off some, Homura gives off some Hotaru vibes. So, from Sailor Moon and Puella Magi. So I'm like, I see the vision. We'll get more into that. I love her sunny disposition. She's adorable. She probably has the most tragic backstory out of all of them. if it's in true anime fashion. So we have 4 students that we're going to get into. Qifrey's students. Qifrey's students. We need to talk about them. We have one, the pink-haired girl, Tessia is one. And then Agot is another. And then we have Coco. But I wonder what Tessia means. I wonder when we get her name, we'll learn a little bit more. But she very much has a praise kink. She likes being praised. She likes being told thank you. She likes positive reinforcement. She explains what the vapor bubble is. And honestly, you can see it now in the tray. You can see it has the water sign, and it shows there's one little arrow that points towards the spigot, and that's where it comes out. The world building with the magic is so accessible. It's so easy to understand. It makes so much sense. It's not anything super crazy complicated, but it just is also really creative and has a lot of areas where you can see it kind of work out. I'm like, yes, please. I'm so here for it. I love it. So yeah, she's like, that's amazing. And of course, this girl here wants to be told thank you all the time because no one else around here tells her that, I'm sure. The one blue-haired girl, Tessia, she's just very low-key and just like, whatever. And then Agot is super serious. So you have somebody that's super chill, somebody super serious, and someone super positive. And Coco's like riding that middle line. Ignore her if she's too much. She'll eventually stop if you just don't respond. Okay, so no, Richa. Oh, Tetia. Tetia is the pink-haired. Tetia has the pink hair. Agot has the purple. Coco has the green. And then Richa has the turquoise. Richa and Tetia are like Plusle and Minun for Pokemon. And then Agot and Coco having the green and purple. I mean, green and purple are my favorite colors. They go together perfectly and complement each other wonderfully. So I'm very happy with the aestheticness of this show. I want to know what Tetia name meaning. What does Tessia mean? Oh, Tessia means healer or sacrificer. Interesting. That's interesting. And she has the pink hair. Again, that girl probably has the most tragic backstory because we note that forbidden spells, healing is a forbidden spell. You are not allowed to heal. That one surprises me the most. Out of all the forbidden spells, some of them made a lot of sense, but the fact that healing others is forbidden, that is interesting. That opens the door for a lot of things. Riche. What does Riche mean? I'm sure everybody has looked this up. Means anger. Anger or aggravated. Interesting. Riche means aggravated. Which, you know what? With the blue hair, she does seem kind of aggravated throughout the whole thing. That's really funny. Riche. Interesting. It could probably mean rich as well. We'll see. What does Agot mean? Agot means virtuous or good in Scandinavian. I'm not going to get crazy into the name meanings because I don't want to get into spoilers, but good or generous. That makes sense. Agot does seem like they mean well and they practice very seriously, so interesting. I'm just helping her, she says. So yeah, she asks if they're both witches, and they're like, we're just apprentices. We're students of Master Qifrey. So I'm very curious to see like what the process is to become a full-blown witch if they're just apprentices right now, if they're just students. I'm super curious, I know you have to take exams, but I'm curious to know what the process is, if there's different ranks or levels. Interesting. Now, both of them figure out that she's the one that cast the spell, and it's like, whoop, immediately the tone shift. This series gives off vibes, if you haven't noticed it by now, that there's like, everything's all sunshine and rainbows, and then like one thing happens and it's like a shadow from a cloud passing over the area, and it's like tone shift and everything's like, ooh. And that this is one of those moments because they both are kind of like, oh, so you're the one. I do like, if you look, they kind of have individualized their outfits. Like, Richa seems like she's not really changed much. She just has her boots. But Tetia has made like the dress shorter and put like a little underskirt with it. And Agot has the belt around it. So they found ways to make the outfits their own, which I think is kind of cute. But yeah, they're like, oh, we've heard rumors. You're the one who did it. And then I love this. The illustration and the way they describe it, the way they describe the birds, like the crows talking amongst each other, are the witches conversing. Love that imagery. That's so good. Kind of makes sense with Qifrey being... it's interesting because Qifrey has very bird-like elements to him in my mind, but then the masked witch has like a butterfly motif. So I don't know what we're going to do with that. An outsider used forbidden magic. And they were allowed to become an apprentice with their memories intact. I like the kind of Rosarch ink blot that becomes here. So the witch that we have this like symbolism up here. I like the tentacles. The tentacles is a really cool touch, not only because I love octopuses, but also because octopi shoot ink, which look, questions that we have. The ink that is magic. Where from? I doubt it's just octopus ink, but I have questions of where the ink is from. That's probably, like, obviously you all can't answer because those would be spoilers, but one of the biggest questions is you need to have a tool to spread the ink, but it has to be special ink. It can't just be any ink, right? So where does the special ink come from? Is it made of the blood of witches? Like, how does that work? So it's going to be interesting to see those questions answered, but I like kind of the death mask, the plague mask here, the witch's hat, the scroll, the octopus tentacles that are like reaching out to, and the octopus tentacles are a really cool symbolism as well because they have the suction cups, so it shows like the witches gathering you into their world and just keeping you there. You don't get to leave. It's Hotel California. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave sort of scenario. I really love the imagery. Then there's Qifrey walking around with this damn black tank top and nothing else on. Being a thirst trap over here. I am really curious as to if there's a reason he's taken on all like female students like under his wing, if there's a reason for it, if maybe, I don't know. I don't know if there's a reason for it or if it's just like he just happened to find 4 girls that needed to be taken in. But the other 3 seem like they are apprentices that he chose. So why girls? I don't know if there's a reason for that. If it ties to his backstory, I don't know. So yeah, she gets her little outfit on. And then he's like, let's explain the story of magic. He's like, long ago, magic wasn't something special. All you needed was a combination of known patterns and specially made ink. I don't know if the ink comes from a specific source that is special or if the way that the ink is put together is special. There's something about it. Do I think that there's potentially something controversial and scandalous with how the ink is made? Yeah, but I don't know if we'll get that or not. So you have to have the ink and you have to have known patterns. And that will make magic be able to be used by anyone. I love that he also has this little booklet of just sketch paper that he can sketch on just whenever he needs it. And also it's like the perfect size for lanterns and things like that. Super cute. It was a familiar tool that anyone could use, but it sparked conflict time and time again. I definitely feel like Qifrey is someone that does not like conflict. He does not like conflict. He doesn't want it to happen, so he tries to avoid it. I love the shot of him with his face in the cogs. Like, all of these little circles view like cogs in a machine, and the fact that it's a circle, the fact that there's so much in this one shot symbolically, the fact that it's a circle, the fact that it's spinning around like the world, and that's how the world worked, the fact that the black ink is like the destruction of all the places and people, the fact that the witch is responsible for it, the fact that you have to draw a full circle in order for the spell to work. Symbolically, everything is there, and I absolutely love it. When humans are given the power to do anything is what they will do. I love that. That's so good. It's like, if you give humans the ability to do anything, that's what will happen. So it's basically that humans are known to push limits. I feel like Coco is the perfect example of that. You give Coco something to work out and a problem to solve, and that's exactly what she did. She worked it out to the point where it hurt someone else. And I love this drawing of like this heart, and I can't exactly draw it, but like the heart that has the tree that comes out of it, and then there's like swords sticking out of the bottom of it with like the ink looking like it's dripping like ink blood. That's so gnarly. But I love it because on the one side, the heart is growing trees, like the heart is creating, the heart is something beautiful and in tune with nature. And then also simultaneously, the heart is full of violence and despair. And it's like, it's such a great metaphor. It's awesome. And many horrific spells were created. Yep. And so then from there, we see like all this shoot up. We see centipedes, we see bugs, we see weapons, we see skulls, we see like these hairy like things. And it said there were a few people who still had a conscience. We see 3, the divine number 3, who decided to turn away from the conflict and unified as witches and take people's... Okay, so we have this. This spell here is the memory spell, I'm guessing, to take people's memories of magic. So we have something in the center. We have a circle in the center. We have another dot. Then we have, it looks like tridents. Looks like that, interestingly enough. There's 5 tridents. And then 6 arrows pointing to it. Huh. Okay. I don't like people playing with people's memories, so that freaks me out so much. So basically, these 3 witches united... 3 witches united and started to take the memories of magic from others. And look, on the surface, and I'm sure Qifrey believes this, on the surface, that seems great. That seems like what had to happen was that these 3 magicians, I think the fact that the witches are phrased as who still had a conscience, I think is very important, because how do we know? Like Qifrey, I'm sure, believes this wholeheartedly. He believes the last 3 witches, decided that they were the ones that had to save magic. We'll make everybody else forget, and we'll just create this secret organization where we still use magic to benefit others, but we're going to do it our way. And that sounds great. That sounds wonderful. But here's the thing. The victors in history are the ones who write it. The victors in history are the ones who write it. How do we know? We don't know at this point. But how do we know that this is not a revisionist historical moment and these 3 witches were not bad people and this is just how they framed themselves as being good? They're like, we saved the world. We kept all this magic to ourselves and we formed this secret society because it's to protect people. That's all well and good unless you're self-serving. And so far, Qifrey has not been self-serving that we've seen, but you can't tell me there are other witches who aren't. So that's going to be interesting. I don't trust it. I don't trust it, but this is what he believes. Yep. And so entrusting the secret to those disciples sworn to protect it. That was the day of the pact. So we have this idea of the day of the pact. The day of the pact is the day that the witches started their society to pass down the knowledge. I imagine that this has been happening for some time now. I also wonder if Qifrey is the one getting that hat passed down to them. Probably not, because the hat doesn't look like that. But I also wonder if maybe Qifrey's master was one of the ones that were first passed down the pact. We don't know how long this has been going on. Ever since then, people have been made to believe that magic is a power only a few can wield. If the truth were to spread, the world would collapse into lawlessness again. I mean, obviously this has been going on quite a while, because the mom believes, and seems to have always believed, the idea about the witches being the only ones who could do magic. So it's been around for at least 50 or 60 years, if not longer, this concept. This could have been happening for hundreds of years, you know. But I do think it's interesting that they're like, the world would collapse into lawlessness if everyone got their hands on magic. And I'm like, well, maybe, yes. But you can't tell me that these witches are just doing magic for good of others. You can't tell me there's not one selfish witch amongst the group, unless they get their memories wiped. And even then, I don't know. It feels like even if it's a group doing all good, there's a restriction there that limits freedom. And the masked witch, I could see the masked witch being like, hey, this system's great and all, but you are, one, being exclusive, and two, this is, you know, limiting what people can do with magic, and shouldn't we be able to do whatever we want with magic? So I can see the vision of where things could go from here, but I'm really excited to see what actually happens, you know? So everyone's being careful to keep the secret, and that's why they started talking about you. And I like that Coco is, you know, Coco's not beating around the bush. She knows what she did. She's taking accountability. But that's when she asks about what forbidden magic is. And then I just Qifrey holding himself being like, oh, you want to talk about forbidden magic? I'm like, sir. Qifrey needs to stop being a thirst trap on this show and keep us at bay. Please, sir. He says magic drawn during the age of conflict and banned when the day of the pact came. So apparently it was magic that was used before it was agreed to pass it on down. Magic that hurts others. And she's like, tell me about the magic I'm not supposed to use. I'm glad that this is such a kind of, at first I thought she's asking to use the magic that she's not supposed to use, but she's not asking that. She's like, I need to know about it, so I'm going to be knowledgeable and won't use it in the future, right? And he's like, oh, okay. I'll be scared to do anything if I don't know what it is. And he's like, okay. This is where I usually tell my students not to rush things, but in your case, we're going to make an exception. Also, it's going to be good for the plot. There are countless forbidden spells, but it's simple when you boil it down. Any spell cast directly upon the human body is prohibited under any circumstance. So, no spells cast upon a body. That makes sense, because that's why the flying spell is on shoes and not your feet. It's on the shoes. The fire and stuff affects like paper or lanterns or things. Nothing's been used on a person. And so he says this includes transformation. So they make a distinct point in the ED of pointing out animal transformation. Are we getting werewolves in this? So no transformation. And that includes age alteration. So that's interesting. It's very distinct when the butterfly comes out. Because I'm like, that's the same butterfly that the masked witch was using. So I'm like, has the masked witch used forbidden magic and they're targeted now? Did they turn someone into a butterfly? I don't know. And then we had the idea of teleportation. Teleportation without doors or conveyances. So basically, if you don't have you can't just make yourself able to teleport, any given time. You have to use a door or something that's an object. As well as manipulation of thoughts or emotions. Qifrey, again, quit looking like a thirst trap. And also using like our genie. You can't make people fall in love. So no manipulating. No love spells. No manipulation of thoughts or emotions. Okay? That's a really good shot of him. The harming of others or even healing them. Because here's the thing. The healing thing sounds like it would be helpful, but then people would take advantage of it. And also, if you have people using magic for wars, the idea of healing and having an immortal army it's problematic. So no healing or hurting. In fact, the memory wipe is the only exception. And here is where it gets kind of, again, a little bit tricky, because you have these strict rules. You can't heal people, even if they were dying. Can't do that. You can't hurt people. You can't transform them. You can't do any age alteration. You can't do any of these other things. But the witches can use memory wiping because it's for the people's own good. That's where it gets a little tricky, right? And even if it sounds good, even if it sounds like it's for the greater good, there's exceptions to rules, and it gets, most spells are cast on tools. I really love this part where it made the lantern. That was adorable. Love that. But yeah, it's bringing about all sorts of questions. And I can see Coco taking everything Qifrey says to heart. And I can see the Masked Witch, if my hunches are correct, the Masked Witch being like, oh, Qifrey told you that? Oh, Mr. Schoolboy by the book told you that? I need them to be a ship. I need them to see each other. I need them to be a ship so I can freak out. But we're not there yet, y'all. We're not there yet. But anyway, this whole thing of the teleporting through the window, like the window of convergence, like getting over to go to the lake, is so freaking cool. Love that. So this place, it's a window way. The window way is awesome. I love it. So then he says that building over there is, what does he call it there? The Tower of Tomes. So we get the Tower of Tomes. And the Tower of Tomes is essentially, that's our goal, by the way. The Tower of Tomes is where copies of the books are held. Every book that's magic has copies in the Tower of the Tomes. So it would make sense for the copy of the book that was given to Coco to be in there as well. We just have to find it and see what spell was in there. So that's our quest. And of course, all books related to magic are duplicated the moment that they're written. And she's like, the picture book, we could go there right now and find it. My thing is, the picture book was duplicated 2 times. There was a picture book and then 2 copies. So what happened there? She's like, we could go right now. And he's like, oh, we can't just go. Y'all have probably some nice fan art of Qifrey. I'm just saying, that turtleneck. He's like, we can't go right now because of this giant sea monster that could, rival the likes of One Piece. Also, them getting just completely soaked by it was really funny. But our issue is the librarian's trial. Basically, the Tower of Tomes is guarded. And Qifrey, what's interesting is that Qifrey doesn't go by himself to check it out. I don't know. I feel like maybe the book is not there because if it was, why not he just go by himself and leave her behind? But I'm going to talk about it in a second. The Tower of Tomes is protected by 4 librarians, and only witches who overcome it are allowed to enter. So we have 4 witches. They have different hats. One has like a hat that I think maybe was seen in the OP, and then the others have like a moon hat, a little hat there, and a hat with a cloud. Interesting. I'm excited to meet different kinds of witches with different kinds of costumes. It's going to be fun. I guess the thing is, Qifrey needs to have Coco go with him to read the book. I'm going to guess any book that's kept in the Tower of Tomes is not allowed to leave the Tower of Tomes. It's like a library. They have the librarians. You have to go there, check out the book, look at it, and then keep it there. You don't get to take it home with you because obviously it has forbidden spells. So I think that what is interesting is that Qifrey can't just go to the Tower of Tomes by himself. That would make things easier. But he needs her to go because she knows what the page looks like. So she has to get up to the level where they can go to the Tower of Tomes and she can read the book. So it gives us this goal. We have a destination we are working towards, the Tower of Tomes. Will that be our final stop? Will we get to the Tower of Tomes and then have other tasks to do afterwards? We'll see. He's like, we need to study if you want to go inside. It made me happy when you said how eager you were to learn. And I don't think Qifrey's lying there. I think that he is very serious about that. One thing, though, is I think that within within a lie is truth. And for Qifrey, he is kind of, he's holding back information from Coco, specifically that he's using her to find the masked witch. But in that same vein, I don't think he's lying about being happy that she's eager to learn. He's just not telling her the full scope of what the other witches know about her and what the deal is. He said it's natural to feel fear. But spells that are not forbidden are the ones that bring happiness to all of us. And this kind of gets to the heart of Qifrey for me, is that he's by the book and he says, why not learn about the gentler sort of spell? And this is such a cute like shot of him with the flowers and everything. But then when he says there, as she's like so excited, he's like, that's how I feel. I mean, Qifrey's a little bit of a pacifist. It seems Qifrey's a little bit of a pacifist. He wants to play by the rules. He doesn't want to stir up trouble. He doesn't want to cause conflict. He seems like, look, Qifrey's MO is the status quo has worked since they fixed things. The witch organization has a great system going. Not everybody has to know about magic. From Qifrey's perspective, of course he'd be fine with this. He's like, I can use magic. I can teach others, and we can make the world a happier place. Isn't that great? And as long as we just keep doing what we're doing and the system works, why would we change it? I think the masked witch is going to say, because it's a system that is corrupted from within and you're just a pacifist and you're not realizing what harm is being caused to others because you're part of the special elite that aren't affected by it. Because I could see the masked witch and giving out the book and stuff being like, here, they don't want you to have this knowledge. They don't want you to have these resources. You don't get to experience the happiness that these other witches experience because you haven't been selected. And I could see where that comes from. Now, obviously, we don't know the masked witch at all yet. There's probably a lot more complexity there. There's probably a lot more nuance, but it's interesting to see Qifrey being like, let's just focus on the happy things and the good magic. But you're talking about a system that has forbidden spells. You're talking about a system that's wiped the memories of countless people. You're talking about a system that caused death and destruction. You can't just say, well, it's real shiny and pretty without acknowledging the other side of it, right? Because willfully ignoring all the bad that comes with it is almost as bad. Ugh. And she's just a kid, so she doesn't quite get it all, but like, you're a grown-ass man. So, we'll see. He's like, well, this will be your room with Agot, your roommate. And I'll be honest, at first with Agot, I didn't know their sex, if they were male or female, because when he said you'll share a workspace, but you'll have separate rooms and the doors can get locked, I was like, okay. From the OP, Agot with the short hair made me think possibly they were a boy, but no, they just have really sweet, short, curly hair. I've got to go take care of something. Yeah, I fully anticipate Gojo was influenced by Qifrey here, if we're on that subject. So we have this communication device. I like to have a version of a phone, like that we've established they have a phone in this world. And this is where Qifrey gets a little bit mysterious. And of course, if you look at Qifrey in this moment, in the golden hour in which he's using the communicator, we don't see his eyes. Eyes are windows to the soul. Anytime you can't see a character's eyes, that means something suspicious is going on. And here, Qifrey is turned to an angle where you can't see his blue eye. You see the one that's covered. So either he's doing something he doesn't want. He's doing something he doesn't want people to know about. But the question is whether he fully is committed to this or not. He says, thank you for allowing me to take Coco as my apprentice. And he says, yes, no, nothing about the picture book. She's overwhelmed right now. So these witches that have given him permission to keep her as an apprentice and not erase her memories because they're going to find out about it are saying it's okay as long as she helps them track down the book. Now, the question is, if they do track down the book, where's it going to go from there? But we'll see, right? That's part of the mystery. I'm so excited about that. And so then Agot shows up, and what an entrance. Agot showing up, freaking, it's like if Homura met Kotaru from Sailor Moon, Puella Magi and Sailor Moon combining. Oh, it's giving me Sailor Saturn vibes. I I live. I'm like, ugh. Am I getting that name right? I feel like somebody in the comments is gonna get on to me. Yeah, it is Homura. Thank you. I was like, I want to make sure I'm right before people in the comments are like, who are you talking about? Yeah, no, Coco and Agot give me Homura and Monica vibes. 100%. Their relationship vibes, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it real. I'm seeing the vision. So, and maybe this came before that as well, but I love Agot's entrance. I am so excited to see how these two interact with one another and what they end up doing with Agot's character. She's like, I know who you are. You're the one you're the outsider everyone's talking about. Agot seems to respect Qifrey a lot, but Agot also seems to take things very seriously, and they're very invested in the world of magic. And I wonder if they have had a run-in with forbidden magic as well. Just from how they talk about it with Coco, because they're like, you're the outsider everybody's been talking about, and you're joining as a new peer. I like that they use the word peer. They don't say apprentice. They don't call Coco an apprentice because that would put them on the same level as them. They say peer. Like, you're our age, but you're not on our level, you know, because of what you've done. And then she says she'll never return to being human. Now, that is a bold statement. That's a bold statement because I don't think they don't really seem to have advertised what spell has been used. That's why they're going after the book. So for Agot to say, because of what you've done, your mom will never be human. What have you experienced, Agot, with forbidden magic to lead you to that conclusion? Because she was like covered in quartz and crystal, but we don't know, like, has Qifrey not told us something about using forbidden magic and what it does to a body? And she's like, I came here to save her. I can't wait to hear the English dub. And I like this aspect where Agot puts the hand out and says, our whole lives we've been drawing casting seals and like until our fingers are stained with ink. I like the idea that to get to this level, to get to the point where they could become an apprentice and use the tools, they had to demonstrate first. So that opens up a whole new conversation about kind of this underground society or this hidden branch of humanity. So the question is Agot and Tessia and Richa, are they like children of witches? Are they the children of witches? Because how would they know about the society? How would they know that you have to practice casting seals to get old enough to be taken on as an apprentice to be a witch? How would you know that? The general population doesn't know. So the assumption would be they are the children of witches. And they've been practicing to also become part of the society as well. I would assume if you don't want to become a witch and you're from a family of witches, you have to have your memory wiped, which sounds interesting in itself. So, or do the witches marry non-witches and have children and then they let the children decide? And then if they say no, they wipe their memories and they just go on living their lives? There's so many questions, right? But Agot makes it seem like they were practicing before they could get the tools to draw. They practiced drawing the seals and the patterns with their fingers until they were stained. I love the fingerprints that are on the fingers. That's so cool. We've been drawing casting seals and wait until our fingertips turned black. And we worked until we passed the tests. And only then were we allowed to become apprentices. So yeah, there's clearly a secret society that is training people to become witches because otherwise the magic will eventually die out if the witches die out. So somebody has to keep it going. The question is, like, how does that society work? I'm curious. And she's like, well, I've drawn spells already, so I know I can do it. And that's when Agot's like, you need to prove yourself. And then Tessia and Richa are like, you should come eat food, but Agot does not seem interested. Also, poor Richa and her bangs. She needs to grow them out a little bit more. I feel for her. So the bread looks amazing. I'm curious if they made it with magic. The soup also looks great too. Not sure what's all in it. I feel bad that Agot is not eating with them. And it seems like Agot does not eat with them a lot. So I'm curious if Agot is new, if Agot is the other newest one, or if Agot's been there the longest and Tessia and Richa are the new ones. I don't know. I'm very curious about all three of these kids and like their backgrounds, their families, where they've come from. I'm very curious. Very curious how that's going to go. But the fact that Tesha's name means healer or sacrifice makes me worried about her. A lot worried about her, so we'll see. And he's like, Coco, you thank the food, and we'll get into it. That tearing of the bread was amazing. That animation was so fluid. It was so good. And he's like, we have this locally grown wheat and all these vegetables. It's so cute. So then Coco goes to bed. And she laments her mom being gone. I do like there was like a little detail when she was going to sleep and it showed her kind of adjusting to try to get it to all like, you know, make herself comfortable. Like that was such a nice little detail to show her trying to, it wasn't a bed she was used to. So it was her trying to get comfortable. I really liked that. So yeah, then the next day they're learning about the books and reading and practicing. You need to learn more from just reading. You actually have to do it. These are the components for drawing magic. So we have a little ink blot there. It seems like we have maybe something to grind with, like maybe to grind the ink away. I'm curious. Then there's the quill. Then there's this stone. There's a little tablet. So curious. I want to know the process. I want to know how this works. And she's like, I felt scared taking the ink wand, but I've got to save her no matter what it takes. Yeah, those books look terrifying. I would be her. Trying to read just like there's no... I like the pin stuck in the ground. That's really cute. But yeah, her trying to read all those symbols and everything. She's like, it's a lot. Like, that is such a funny little panel of her. So then she explains the three main elements of a spell. So with a spell, we have the sigil. I'm running out of space on whiteboard, Kuhn. We have the sigil in the center, and that's where we start. And it's surrounded by lines called signs. Then we have the signs. Okay. And then from there, we have the actual outer circle that's called the ring. And that's what completes the spell and lets it work, right? And the way that the arrows are described, it all makes sense because the arrows, the way you draw the signs is where the arrows go. So I want to go back to episode 1 and just go back to that forbidden spell that was on there and see what was getting traced. We need to go back to that spell. Oh, that's a lot. Oh man. Okay. Whoo. Holy cow, that's a lot. Like that's not one of the elements they gave us. There's like an eye. There's squiggles. There's lines going everywhere. This is a very complicated spell. And it does not look simple at all. Nope. Nope. Okay. That helps me not. That's what they thought everybody was going to do. Everybody's going to go back and look at that spell and be like, oh, I can figure it out. I don't know what those symbols are. So never mind. Never mind. Fire was not one of them. Water, nope. Light, was light one of them? Kind of. There's light in there in that big little kaleidoscope looking thing. There is a square for light. It's just a lot more complicated, which, okay. And then wind, which there is some wind. There are wind symbols, but there's other things too. Okay. They determine what kind of magic it becomes. So it's some variance of light. And the signs determine what form the magic takes, as well as its size and direction. Okay, and then the outer circle allows it to be formed. I also love Qifrey's being like, come on, do a spell. You can do it. You got this. Like, Qifrey is trying, again, Qifrey is doing the very much, I'm a very fun, whimsical mentor, but I have probably a dark, traumatic past. He's giving off those vibes. It is really cute, though, him trying to help. And then I also like that Qifrey's like, don't waste the paper. Don't throw it away. It's sloppy and messy, but he's like, of course it is. You're just learning. But you have to connect the circle. I like that he explains that in order for it to work. And he's like, you're like a newborn deer learning to stand. I really like that shot as well. I thought about using that for the thumbnail because it's a really good shot. And also I don't want to give away the kids being in this yet, but that's a really good shot. I love that of him like being like, you can become a witch too, Coco. Here's the tools and the knowledge that you need. So he's like, connect the spell. And of course, as it connects, it shoots straight towards Agot, who does not get as mad as I thought she would. She's like, it was an accident. Like, Agot, I think, likes... Ooh, interesting. Oh, which spell was that? Which spell was that? It's like a little variance. Curious. Indeed. I'm going to be curious to know, like, what the other elements are that you can use. But yeah, I expected Agot to get a lot more mad, and they didn't. Maybe it's because Qifrey was around, or maybe it's because they can see Coco is trying and taking it seriously. And they're like, I'm not bothered by it at all. Okay. And I think Agot, I'm surprised that Agot was like, you know, this sign's longer than the rest, that's why it did it. I gather the impression, this is just my impression, I am projecting hardcore, but I feel like Agot likes Coco, but doesn't trust Coco yet, and so they want to like Coco, they want to trust Coco, but they're just not sure at the moment. So we're just seeing how this goes, and we're testing the waters. But I do like that she offers Coco advice on how to fix it. She didn't have to do that. But maybe she was also trying to appeal to Qifrey as well. So Qifrey's like, yeah, I gotta go to the Great Hall. This part here, where the ribbon is in his hand and he smooths it out. Ugh, that's such a satisfying gesture. I've got to go visit the Great Hall for the next 2 or 3 days. Obviously to meet with other witches and talk about the picture book. So, leaving Coco in Agot's care so that Coco can learn from Agot, saying, you don't have to keep apologizing. I wasn't bothered by it. Now then, I told you to prove yourself. No more cushy lessons. The tests start now. I like that Agot's having a moment of power and being like, let's go, newbie. You're the rookie now. It would be funny to learn that Agot was like the newest one besides Tessia and Richa, but they could have been here the longest, and maybe that's why Qifrey leaves Coco with them. Or maybe because Qifrey knows that Agot is competent and able to make sure Coco doesn't get out of line. I don't know. I have thoughts, but we're going to wait on that. We're going to wait on them thoughts. Meanwhile, we have whatever spells they've been working on, and they're both illustrated there, and then the stars between them. It's a fated alliance. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, so as in the ED, as Coco is carrying the jar, it's like Coco's jar, Pandora's box. As she's carrying the jar down with the magic, there's like swirls and the crystals, but there's also like a hand changing into a claw. So I'm like, we getting werewolves, please? Is the enchantress from Beauty and the Beast a witch? We'll see. We'll see. So I'm curious. I'm also curious to know how the spells that are cast upon people work. So if you did the memory spell and you just put the piece of paper on them, on their body, would it cause them to lose their memories? Interesting indeed. But I have talked for almost an hour about this episode, and I'm super excited to see what's going to happen in episode 3. But we've done an amazing job of setting up Qifrey's character so far, his relationship with Coco, that Coco's now part of the Qifrey School of Witches. Agot, Tessia, and Richa all are delightful. I want to see more with them. I want to see this thing, maybe next episode. But we'll go from there. And then that masked witch, y'all, I'm so excited. But anyway, I'll be watching the English dub of this episode next week before we start episode 3. And in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'm back very soon with more of Witch Hat Atelier, and I'm excited to hear your comments down below. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next week. Bye!